Yeah, they don't want their parents
Yeah,
at that point, right?
Because they're that age, so they're off the chain.
I mean, I know, we were all teenagers, right?
Yeah,
so,
middle school is just nuts. By teaching middle school, because I first started teaching high school, so I came in kind of like, oh, I'm a high school teacher. I got high school kids. And we used to be like, what are these middle school teachers doing? They're not teaching them anything. These kids are wild and blah, 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 blah. Then I went and worked in a middle school. Now I will never say anything bad about a middle school teacher
because you're managing. Okay, who's managing more behaviors? Is it the middle school teachers or is it the high school teachers?
Middle school, definitely.
Yeah.
And middle school now is 7th, 8th only, or is it 7th, 8th, and 9th? Or?
Depends on
the way you're at.
Because mine changed when I was in school. Okay,
some
but about that, right? Like
between 6
some are
and
7th and 8th.
Some are 6th and 7th
some
and 8th.
are 6th, 7th, and
12
8th.
to 15-year-olds. Basically.
Some are 7th, 8th, and 9. A lot of these rural
I promise
areas.
you, I could never be anywhere from 6th to 12th grade because I'd be in jail.
Oh, I know. I wanted to be a
seriously,
teacher.
No, I couldn't. I knew I wouldn't be. I would be in jail.
But no, I would be like, I'm sorry I smacked your child.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
I know, because if I babysit your kid, just know if they act up, I act up too.
You would be my first babysitter if I had a child.
Yeah.
Oh, I got, well, when I was teaching middle school, these 2 little 6th grade kids trying to jump me one time. It was hilarious.
You're like 6'4", dude. How did they think that was going to happen?
Well, again.
Delusions of grandeur.
What I tell these young teachers is that you never know what's going on behind closed doors.
Yeah, so going back to what we're talking about, where education starts and all that stuff, and the money and what do we really need.
And one of the best pieces of advice I got from my mom was an educator she worked for Fairfax County for 33 years, was an educator for over 40 years. And one of the things that she told, I remember I was complaining when I was a young teacher. I was complaining about, the kids are all loud. And dang, kids are loud. What's going on? My mom was like, well, when I was a young teacher, special ed teachers had to do home visits. And my mom was a special education teacher. And so they that was part of their job, was to do home visits. Think about that now.
It's like a social worker, and it's everything.
Like now you're not even allowed to even talk to a kid. Like my mom had to make.
Yeah. Bless her whole heart.
Yeah.
Her whole heart.
And so she said she went to this home, and one thing she noticed was, number one, there was no books or any type of reading materials in the house that was age appropriate for any of the kids.
Oh, wow.
So right there off the top, kids don't even have, reading material or anything like that. So how are you going to get ahead if you don't even have that?
Do you think it's a cycle of what's happening in the breakdown of the home because of what's happening?
Absolutely.
Because the parents are they're so busy working, stuff like
Absolutely.
that. And parents just kind of shove their kids off to, here you go.
Absolutely. I have kids, that have 6 siblings, and when they get home, they have to be an adult. So the only time they have to be a kid and act stupid and do dumb stuff is in school.
And they take full advantage.
Absolutely. Because when they go home, they know it's for real. Like, they have to be an adult.
Out of your 8 to 10 hours a day that you work, how many hours do you think you spend managing behaviors, and how many hours do you think you spend just teaching?
That's a great question.
The second I walk in the building, I'm managing behaviors.
And it's all day.
So the second I left.
And it's all day.
All day.
And how much time do you spend teaching the little
it's
hours?
Congruent, I guess, right?
No, probably not.
I mean, but again, like, what is teaching behavior? So I do things that are going to curb people's behavior before it even starts. Things such as I teach business and marketing classes. So every day I wear shirt, tie, slacks. I dress the part.
Okay.
Most people think I'm an administrator. So right off the top, from the beginning, I have that level of respect that says, I am not like you. I'm not dressing like you. I'm different.
You're Mr. Phillips.
I'm Mr. Phillips. I don't let them call me anything else. I remember I used to tell kids, I was like, my name is Mr. Phillips. They'd be like, what's your middle name? I'd be like, period.
I love it.
but it's a level. It's a level. It's a level of respect.
Yes.
Do you see that? I'm sorry, but do you see that? Because you say you are a you also get into talking about the kids. So do you're managing new teachers?
Mm-hmm.
When you're bringing in that new teacher, is that what you are also telling them? And
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because that's one of the first things they ask me about is classroom discipline. Like how do you do discipline in the class? Like, how is it that you don't have altercations in your class? Keep hearing all these stories about a kid threw a chair and all this other stuff.
See?
And I'm just like,
Jail.
how do you as a teacher even let it get to that escalation point? And like I said, I curb it from the beginning, starting with that. I stand at the front of my classroom. So every time in between class, I stand in front of my classroom. I know every single one of my students' names. I greet them as they come into my class, and I treat them the same every single day they walk to my class, whether I'm mad at them, whether I'm not. If they're coming into class, good morning, young lady. Good morning, so-and-so. How you doing? How was your day? I always say something to them as they come in, and that alleviates the tension right off the top.
Have you had any scenarios where you were mentoring a new teacher and they came to you about they are losing their class? Have you had?
Absolutely.
Can you get into any details? Because I'm curious about how the younger, because teachers are getting younger now, right?
Absolutely.
Because the older teachers they're getting out of here, right?
Yeah.
So you've got 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds that just graduated college.
Mm-hmm.
They're now teaching, so they have some of that. They don't have that stature like you have, because you're teaching 16, 17-year-olds. We're only 5-6 years apart.
Yeah. And at one point, I was that young teacher.
You were that guy.
And
Yeah.
didn't know any
But you
better.
know what though? You still have that stature, which makes a difference.
Yes, it does.
It does. It
Absolutely.
makes it. Cindy had a
Absolutely.
teacher when she was in high school that was, when I walked in the classroom for back to school night, I swear to God, I walk in, you sit in the desk in the front. I'm sitting in the desk, and she wasn't sitting at the table, so I thought she was a student. And when she got to the front, she was like 4'11", and I'm like, "You're the teacher?" I was like, "Oh God!"
Did you say it like that?
Yeah, because I thought she was a kid. She had red
Hey.
hair. She was a little tiny thing, and I thought she was a student, and she was a freaking teacher. And I thought, oh God, because Sydney's like 5'9". I'm like, I hope she don't ever make Sydney mad, because Sydney gonna whoop her ass.
A lot of it is your confidence
Demeanor. I was just about to
in
say.
yourself
Exactly.
and your demeanor. I mean, this sounds bad, but kids are like dogs. They can smell fear.
Yep.
If you're rolling up in there and you're scared and you don't know what to do and you're just kind of like, ugh, they're going to eat you alive.
You ever had a scary moment?
No, because I've always been a person that's had a lot of confidence in myself and who I am. So I already knew if I'm coming in, I was always a very good public speaker. So I already had that confidence of, doesn't matter. I know what I'm talking about. I'm in charge here. Let's get this done.
And he's Mr. Period Phillips.
Yeah.
Now, I've had those scary moments because I worked with emotionally disturbed kids for those 9 years I was teaching teaching with the school system, right? So I've had several of those square off moments. I've had students square off me with scissors.
I've had that.
Yeah.
I've had a kid curse me out and all that stuff. Absolutely.
That was honestly cursing out. That was a daily.
How
basis.
so how do you handle? Because
Yeah,
I would
no,
just want to hit them
I would
so
curse
badly.
the hell out, dude. Like I don't have that. I'm like
corporal punishment.
This is
came
also why
right in
this is also why I'm not a cop. We were talking about this,
Patricia and I have very similar personalities.
I don't, and I'm still going to jail.
I do not let people disrespect me, and
especially children.
I don't know how it handle. I would just be like, oh my God.
Oh, I know how to handle it. I'd be like this.
Here's the ruler.
Well, first of all, you spend a lot of time. Chris probably attests more. You spend a lot of time working that out in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, coming into a situation, if you're working with emotionally disturbed kids, conduct
Well, that's
disorder,
a little different, I
obviously
guess.
Yeah,
fine.
there's that. That's slightly different.
yeah.
But I'm just talking about your
And-
regular
and-
13-year-old with
But you
their
honestly know
attitude.
those could be worse situations because when those kids kirk out,
Which one? Emotionally disturbed ones, you mean?
no,
The
Regular
nine.
kid?
no regular
nine.
kids,
Oh.
because
Yeah.
at least you know, okay, coming into it with a kid who has a IEP,
Yeah,
or
you
something
already
like
know.
that, you already know, right?
Yeah.
So like you say, it's funny you say you get kirked out. Like honestly, my day started with, "Hey, little Johnny," or like just saying the name, "Hey, little Johnny, how you doing?" Suck my dick, Mr. Key. You know, like that was the start of my day.
Oh.
Every day.
That's a little bit funny.
Every day, every
This is
class.
what this is the emotionally disturbed kid?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh,
Every
yeah.
day, every class, you know, hey, how you guys? Come on in my classroom. Mr. Keith, I'll hook you up. And so, you know, Father was like, okay, all right, guys, come
Number
on.
one, they were calling you Mr. Keith. They should be calling you Mr. Hogan.
Well, that's the way our principal set it up.
Oh, really?
She
Okay.
she decided she was one of those. Well,
The
There
mister
you go.
is still
There's
there.
there you go.
Starts from the head.
It starts from the
head.
top.
Yeah.
It does. So then we're getting to class, but see, this is when things change because then I would shut the door and I'd let them know, okay, folks, Mr. Keith out in that hallway ain't the same as Keith in his classroom. I'm more like the Mr. Keith in my house. I will put my foot deep in your ass if I need to. And
Has
they,
anyone ever challenged you?
one or two kids did
Yeah.
over the course of time, but like Chris was saying, you establish at the very outset the
Alpha.
parameters.
You have to be the alpha.
You are not
Yeah.
gonna
Apex.
that what you did there
Yeah.
is not gonna happen here. That's not happening here.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, we talk about a lot on this show. We talk about empaths. I'm wondering, are there a lot of empaths that are teachers?
I don't think so, because I couldn't be one. I'm going to jail.
I'll tell you, my wife is probably one, but now she's.
I would
you know,
say
I
there
wish I'd have
are.
brought her. I wish she should have came today. Of course, she never agreed to talk out in public about her stuff, but she works with preschool autistic children.
Bless her heart.
I mean, she's got a heart big as. Obviously, she married me. I mean, I'm a special ed person.
Yeah. Well,
You know, shut your mouth.
You're- yeah.
she
But-
needed.
She likes special people.
I think a lot of the. What do you think, Chris? You think a lot of the female teachers start out? I think they start out as empaths in the
It
profession.
depends on the school.
And I think they might be
Right.
empaths in their personal life, but after a certain amount of time, what do you think? Does
Are you an empath?
over the course of time have you seen maybe not just with you but also with other people? Have you seen where people's demeanor, for lack of better words, change? Where they're like, you know, they're bright,
They get
and
hardened.
bubbly,
They get hardened.
Get hardened. There you go. Thank you, Pat. That's great.
That's a good question.
Oh, absolutely.
Are you an empath?
I've been hardened.
Are you an
I'm
empath,
not
Chris?
as
By nature?
first of all, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Empaths. I don't
Remember-
know. These are the SAT words that I don't know.
I don't want to be called an empath.
Someone who takes on the
Emotions.
emotions of the person they're dealing with. So translation, I know you know.
No, I'm definitely not.
Yeah, I
that.
didn't-
I'll
I
take
didn't
on
think he was
somebody else's
either.
emotions.
Yeah.
I said I'm too.
Well, maybe to your students that might be a little different, right?
No.
Like,
It's
you're
different to be
empathic
sympathetic
No.
to someone than to like.
Empathetic is different than sympathetic.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah, empaths
Yeah.
get drained because they're so affected by the other
Yeah,
people's emotions
Chris is
around
not
them.
that.
Nah, Chris is not.
Yeah,
that.
like
No, I
the
sleep
reason.
well every night.
So the reason,
I
the
don't have any
reason,
problem sleeping.
the reason why I ask that question is because if you're an empath and you have to deal with that much emotional energy on a day-to-day basis, you couldn't survive 30, 40
You know
years.
what?
There's your high.
But
turnover
maybe
rate,
that's.
Pat.
I was getting ready to say the
Yeah.
same thing. Maybe that's why so many people quit,
There's your high turnover
Absolutely.
rate.
Well, not only that, I think
and you're not getting paid enough.
And I also think, every generation is different, right? So every time, Chris has probably seen so many different types of generations coming in. Like now you're dealing with, kids that are having that they, them, the whole thing. And
Non-binary is the
non-binary,
term.
non-binary.
Can I
Are they-
ask a question?
Are the kids? Yeah, I was gonna say, are the kids now like with this whole new generation, Gen Z? Do you see them to be a little
Tell you
softer?
something.
Are they softer?
I'll tell you something. The kids do not care about that crap.
Thank you. I was just about to say. I think that is such a political
Yeah,
bull.
Kids
The
do
adults
not
kind of
care
took that
about
and ran
that.
with
Yeah.
it. Is that
Not
what you're
the
saying?
adults, because they're children.
Wait, I want
I
to hear
do
Chris's.
know that they don't have a problem with the he, she, they, them. They don't care about like that stuff. They're like, whatever. We have kids that wear dresses in school. So what? No one cares. I'm not paying attention to them. They're not paying attention to me. The kids don't care. They're going about doing their care about prom and whatever.
Are there a lot of bullies? Are there bullies in school now?
There's always bullies.
There's always going to be bullies no matter what.
Yeah.
There's bullies at work.
It's a pecking order.
Teachers that bully other teachers, or administrators that bully teachers, or
Yes.
lawyers that bully other lawyers. There's always going to be bullies. It's just now kids they cyberbully, and it's just easier because you don't have to be in someone's face. You know, back in our day, we didn't have a cell phone. There was no cyberbullying. If you wanted to bully somebody,
You in their
had to
face.
physically bully them. You had to go up in their face and be like,
Yeah,
"Yeah,
actually be courageous
you were
and do
this."
it.
Yeah.
Best of times.
So they're
The
bullying
memories.
kids on Instagram, but when they come into school and they see them face to face, are they still
They're
like,
keyboard warriors,
Nah.
brother. They're keyboard
Nah.
warriors. They're keyboard
I tell you
warriors.
what,
Totally
the
different, huh?
one thing I definitely think I've noticed is that females are way more likely to get into a fight in school than males.
I could see
Way
that.
more.
Really?
Way
Why is that?
more.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Hormones.
Hormones, emotions.
Popularity?
I don't know. Guys really don't fight in school anymore.
That's that. I'm gonna leave a comment, and I'm gonna get into one thing because Keith is here, and I was waiting to touch this subject because he and I are gonna get into it on this one.
Uh-oh, can't wait.
But I
never
to
get
touch
into
your
it.
to touch your situation about the females. I think it's that female masculinity.
Oh, wow.
Oh boy! Oh
Oh.
boy!
No, I can say that just
that?
observing, like when I go to watch.
Y'all
her,
think I'm wrong?
Yes,
Yeah.
because when I go to watch her stuff at school, it's a pecking order thing. kinda.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
more-
we have a student here that could probably testify. She said yes.
Do you
Come on over here, baby
You can
girl.
you can go.
Do you think hold on, I'm gonna grab you a mic in
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna grab you a mic in a second, but my question is gonna be do you think, and y'all can talk while I grab her mic, do you think that the pecking order, that is it different in school nowadays, and you're a teacher, is that pecking order different for male students than it is for female students? You can start answering that, and I'll grab her a
Ooh.
mic.
Gabby is
They're-
saying yes. She's a strong yes.
I think
Gabby needs this mic,
What-
man, ASAP.
what females care about, I think, is different than what males
There you
care
go.
about.
Well, that's absolutely true.
when it
That's
comes to
always been
pecking
true.
order. Like, guys' pecking order is based on strength and cruelty. Like, we're like, if you're the biggest, baddest dude, like, you got your pecking order. Like, period. Like,
Well, it's
dudes are
based
like,
on
whatever.
visual
Yes,
Absolutely.
visual and physical. Whereas
initially.
I think the ladies are more like, it's more psychological, man.
I was gonna say
Absolutely.
Yeah,
psychological warfare.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes, women are, man.
I think
Absolutely.
it's always been like that.
It's
And
all,
always
yeah,
is.
it's always
You-
been like that.
I tell
Yeah,
I,
women
as
are
much as
mean,
I always
Jack.
say,
They're mean.
I always say you all are the strongest, best part of our species, because without y'all, again, we wouldn't exist. Because if men had to have kids, we'd have about 3 of them. But less than but no, I think also too, when it comes up here, you all just go to levels that we can't. Like men are
Like all those movies, like Cruel
Men just don't
Intentions,
care.
Dangerous Liaisons,
Yes.
which is what it's
Men, we
based
just
on,
don't
right?
care. We're like, all right.
You're like,
he's an
I'm
ass. We
gonna
don't
hit
like
him.
Yeah, unless they're a narcissist.
Yeah.
And we're like,
narcissistic
no,
man.
I'm going to destroy you from the inside
Yeah,
until you
absolutely.
kill yourself.
Yeah.
A woman is thinking like,
Yeah,
chess
unless you're a
moves.
narcissistic
So it starts
man.
early, huh?
Women are chess moves. Women are like, well,
Yeah.
I get her by doing this, and that. And I thought,
That's what I'm saying.
Guys are like,
Narcissistic,
I don't
man.
like him, about to go punch him in the face. That's it.
Men are simple. Men are simplistic.
Absolutely.
Unless they're narcissistic, then they'll make
Absolutely.
moves.
Say hi.
Otherwise, they're
Absolutely.
narcissistic. Like, I don't like her. That's it.
Yeah, that's why we don't know all the information.
All right,
You
we-
just
Well, let's get
to-
Gabby's
Yeah,
input
we
on
got
it.
got
We're
Gabby
gonna
on
bring
here.
Gabby.
Let's
as
get
a
that.
student.
Come
Yeah.
on, Gab.
Give her the question again. So I'm on reminded me.
So Gabby, do you think? Okay, what is the thing about females getting into either a lot of confrontation in schools nowadays? What do you think that's all about?
And wait, can you tell us what grade you're in also before?
8th grade.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Go ahead.
There's two main reasons.
Hold it up.
Sorry. There's two main reasons. One is like talking behind each other's back, and then the second reason would be guys. I'm gonna be plain and honest. Guys.
That's my girl.
Absolutely.
That has not changed.
I agree with that
That
100%.
literally has not changed.
It hasn't
Absolutely.
changed,
Yeah.
but like Chris was saying, I think that the
That still goes on to today.
Yes.
Like women at everybody,
Yes.
at all ages.
The peck order. I'm this girl, and I deserve these guys.
Right.
And I don't want any guys around.
And if you have this guy, and I don't think that you're good enough to have this guy, I'm going to talk about you and say that you
Nothing
did these
changes.
things.
It's just the way we.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The way they go about it. That internet.
So ridiculous.
How is with the internet thing?
What do you mean?
Actually,
by
she
the
went.
internet?
I don't know.
Are you on the
I have to
social media,
change- I have to
Gabby?
change
Are you-
because
Just Snapchat.
I
Just
took.
Snapchat?
I haven't really let her on a whole
So,
lot.
Gabby, can you give us an example of something, maybe, if you're okay to talk about it, or it doesn't have to be people's names, but like a situation that you've witnessed in school, or like how something might.
Or maybe something you heard of, maybe not.
Yeah,
something you read.
heard. Whatever. You
Doesn't
want
have to be at your school. It could be something that you heard from maybe another school.
About guys or about
What?
talking
What?
behind
a
people's
situation,
back?
like a
Just
situation.
situational, doesn't whatever.
Well, I know these two people, and they're like the closest people you would ever know. Like, they're together every single day, but then, like, they separate for a minute, and all of a sudden they hate each other, and they're talking behind each other's backs.
When we're supposed to be friends.
Yes.
And they're two girls that are friends?
Yes, they're practically sisters at this point. I mean, they spend all summer together, going on vacations together, but then as soon as one of them turns their back, the other one's to their other friend, because there's like 3 of them, and the one's like neutral. So they turn.
Triangulation.
One turns their back, and then the other party turns to the neutral party, and
Y'all
Yes.
just operate.
That hasn't changed though.
But you,
I was gonna say the same
It's like
thing.
all the
That-
teen
that
girl
hasn't changed.
movies and
I know.
TV
But do you-
shows,
do you
right?
now
40-year-old
see why?
women still
that's
do that.
every
That's every generation.
That's every teen movie that we've seen.
But do you
ever.
see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm talking
Clueless.
about when that, like, how you all operate on those different levels? Look at this. This is 8th grade.
Well, let me just tell you something,
We've been
Gab.
talked to about since 6th grade.
You're 13.
yeah,
I hate to
14.
Tell you 14. I hate to tell you this. Your friends will be doing it at 52. I hate to tell you that.
Johnny, you're talking in front of the mic.
Oh,
All right,
sorry.
so let's get into what we were delaying.
But first, Pat, I love you, man.
I love you too, man.
Okay.
Hi, Keith.
What
Hi guys.
is
Miss you all. Really miss you all.
I
Also,
miss
Gabby,
you.
grab a donut. We could-
Chris? So let's talk about this.
How political we gonna get though?
Man,
You ready for it?
Hey, let's
Let's
get
go
into
real
it.
deep.
Let's get
Let's
into
deep.
it.
What is
real deep.
shit.
what is CRT?
Woo!
So
We were
again,
waiting for you, Keith.
critical race theory is a graduate level theory that says that the American system is systematically racist. So what that means is that the systems that we have in America are set up to be racist, whether it's redlining in real estate, whether it's the prison, public school to prison pipeline, whether it's the jobs, whether it's getting bank loans. It's a systemic thing. It's a systematic thing.
Gerrymandering.
Part of it is something that directly relates you, the allocation of funding for public school systems.
Absolutely.
So-
These are things.
so,
that is something that's based on, again, a graduate level law theory. No one is teaching that in elementary school, middle school, or high school.
So I just want to get to understand this, right? There's a certain political party out here. They're the party of fear and anger, right?
Yes.
We're not going to say which party that is,
Okay.
but have they? Because we have a governor of our state who won the governorship solely based off of CRT.
Mm-hmm.
The fear of
That's politics, not education.
that's there you go. Because
Because that's what that's what
Right.
I'm saying is that, and I'm talking to a teacher,
right.
and I'm saying to myself when I see this nonsense on the news,
Mm-hmm.
they're not even teaching this nonsense.
Okay, but
So I'm confused of what CRT exactly.
Critical
is.
race
Yeah,
theory.
but okay. So what are they not teaching? Or
okay,
what are
but
they
can I say one
teaching?
thing?
Yeah.
Let's call critical race theory what it really should actually be called.
Black history.
Regular goddamn history.
Black history.
So CRT is not allowing regular history to be taught in schools. What you're saying?
No.
No, what he's saying is it's a gradual level, like
Right.
it's where you're
theory.
getting into like analysis and,
Right.
and
Yes.
thinking that is not going to be taught at a lower
This
level
is what
because
this
you're not
starts
there
with-
yet.
example,
This
like,
is
for
a
example.
600 level classic
It
college.
starts with the first word. Understand what it starts with.
Critical.
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 critical thinking.
Critical
and it ends
thinking.
with theory, so it's one theory of how
Yes.
things are
And-
that
and-
you should be allowed to discuss at a graduate level. For
Thank
sure.
you. So these are discussions that should be held with intellectuals.
Absolutely.
for that.
For that.
But like you said, the fear and anger, right? So let's take this big, scary, critical race theory topic that should only be a 600 level discussion, right? And let's apply it to everything. If this is taught to your kids, let's just say, like, if this is taught to your young white kids, they're going to learn to hate themselves. They're going to hate each other. They're going to hate everything that's white. That's not bullshit.
Because what I see on this whole CRT, what I see personally is you take a boogeyman, because the fear and anger people, they always need a boogeyman. Right?
Absolutely.
There needs to be a boogeyman, right? There needs to be somebody that's going to come get your guns. There needs to be somebody that's going to change this,
Or
and somebody's going to
thing or idea.
Yeah. So you take this idea of what this boogeyman is. You don't apply any critical thinking, right? You plaster it out there on just headlines, right? Because
Absolutely.
In today's society, no one really dives into the critical thinking.
You don't have to because
You
you,
don't
got
have to.
Snapchat and
There you go.
clickbait and
So
you got
now-
a little
so
something
now
on
you have this-
Facebook or Twitter.
You have the sound
180
bite,
characters.
you have the sound bite, you have the Twitter, and you run with it.
Absolutely.
So you take the fear and the anger and you run with it.
Right.
And nobody stops to think and say to themselves, "What?"
So it has to do with American history, though, right?
It's-
Most
it's-
of
it's-
all
It's
that-
history,
all that-
period. Not American. It's history, period.
It's history.
Here's the thing. If I take this boogeyman of critical race theory and apply it ad nauseum to everything, then I can block. Because now we're starting to see, and I love, because we're going to say another word, I know you're going to, we're starting to see an awakening throughout these younger generations. That's one thing I told you, I stopped getting on these younger generations. They're a lot smarter than we give them credit for.
The access of information, brother.
And they're a lot smarter, and they're starting to see things, right? They're starting to, wait a minute, mom and dad told me that this don't look right, but this is what it really is, right? So there's a wokeness. I love how it's another word
It's another
word that they've taken.
They've changed the
Political
parameter of what it
catchphrase.
means.
Yeah, there you go, exactly. So what they've done is just taken this, like you said, it's regular American history. They don't want, which is amazing to me, how you think that you're going to be able to hide something that's public knowledge. Eventually,
people don't read. A lot of people don't read, Keith.
You're right, but see, that's what I'm talking about, Pat. You got these kids who
Read.
right? But you got these kids who are into these. I tell you, one of the most watched things I saw on TikTok. So me and your TikTok holes
It's these
was those two brilliant young brothers in Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
That was some of the most watched stuff I saw on social media this week. Now, like you said, these kids don't read, but guess what they did? That's what a lot of them kids do. They watched that.
Yeah.
I remember doing the George Floyd thing. I brought it up for, there was that one little like teenage white girl at her house, and her parents were just rah, but he brought it on themselves, the black people, and she was just giving them the business. But she wasn't being crappy. She was just giving them the bit. I'm telling you, I know, I've seen this, I've read it, and they sounded so stupid. Like listening to this, like from the mouths of her children. Like a lot of times, I sit back and listen to her because she's pretty smart. So there's a lot you can learn from them.
So Chris, for the record, is critical race theory taught at the level of school that you are teaching, and tell us the level of school that you're teaching?
I never even heard of critical race theory
On the news.
until the pandemic. I'd never even heard of critical race theory. Again, it is a theory, and elementary, middle school, and high school kids, 99.5% of them are not ready to even do critical thinking of anything.
There you go. There you go.
Their brains aren't even fully developed. Your brain isn't really fully developed until you're in your mid-20s. So how's an elementary school kid, like who, like, again, I've taught elementary school. Now, I would say when I taught elementary school, I did it for what's called Category P special education, which is physically and intellectually challenged students, kids with autism, kids with cerebral palsy, kids that are nonverbal and all this other stuff. So, like, for me, a great day is I got a kid to say a word.
Yeah.
I've actually, my wife said,
I'm not thinking about, hey, maybe I should teach this kid that he shouldn't like himself because he's white. No. My thought is he is nonverbal for his entire life.
So he shouldn't like himself because he's nonverbal.
I don't. Yeah, right? I'm like,
Oh my God, I'm
this
gonna get
kid, I just want to find out
Here's too much, dude.
how I can get this kid any type of education.
Right.
Whether it's saying a word, whether it's making a movement, whether it's communicating with myself or my aides or anything like that. To me, that is him learning. That is education, and that's what I'm worried about. And, you know, again, I've spent time. I was also a substitute teacher, which is another aspect of education. I did and I did it at elementary schools, and I did it at middle schools, and I did it at high schools, and all three were different. And not once in any of the lesson plans that I got in elementary school was ever a teacher like, okay, make sure to tell the white kids that they aren't good today.
So
It's
what
like-
you're saying to me as a teacher in a public school is that y'all are not about that nonsense.
No.
Okay.
We got 10,000. We got to worry about the kids going to pee on the carpet. We got to worry
if they
about.
can spell.
Yes.
Can
if
they get into
spell,
college?
If they can pass the
The
stupid
SOL.
test.
There you go. Can they pass
You
it?
know, I mean, even in high school, I had a kid last year who couldn't come to school because couldn't come to class because his girlfriend broke up with him. He was too heartbroken, so he had to stay in his counselor's office. I mean, I got to deal with that crap.
So you got important things to deal
Yeah,
with.
like I don't have time to be like, well, today I'm going to teach you guys that white people are bad. Like I don't have time for
Let's
that.
hear from Gabby. Gabby, have you heard about CRT?
No.
Thank you. So we're gonna put a button into this topic because I thought it was nonsense. I wanted to get your thought on it because look, man, you know the fear and anger people, they want to get a rise out of a lot of people, and they want to get people triggered to do things that are not in their best interest. And I just believe, you know, when this whole thing, you know, came about, I was like, this is such nonsense. What the hell? Like, I had no idea. Critical race theory. What the hell is that?
Of all my experience in teaching, like I said, I've taught at private school also. There is way more indoctrination going on in private schools than there is in any public school.
No question.
By far.
Well,
They
yeah,
got the
'cause
money.
they usually have like something, like whether it's a religious school or
Right.
whatever, like some other thing
Right.
going
One
on.
of
a lot
my
times.
cousins has been told by a teacher in a private school that Jesus is white.
There you go.
Period.
Now you got to ask her the right question of that. Like she might not have heard about critical race theory.
That's
but
indoctrination.
She's learned about real history. She knows. She'll like. I remember this one time she went to what was it, like second or third or first, second grade. She came home with this. The teacher was teaching something about the because we're doing Virginia history at that level, and the teacher was talking about how the Indians were taught by the settlers how to have a community or have home, like some crazy mess, right? And so I had to sit down and talk to her about it. And I've always told her, learn what you have to learn at school, right? But make sure that when you want to find good information, come talk to me, come look at it yourself, you know?
Education starts at home.
All right, so good. This leads me to a very, very good question about teaching. Do you think, as teachers and yourself and other teachers that you've mentored or work with, do you think teachers bring their personal views on either politics, religion, all that kind of stuff into the classroom?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You can't not. Everybody, we're human beings. We're not
Robots.
You know, people have this imagination that teachers are just these robots. We go in and we do this thing. And
This is like the policing one
it's like,
too.
no,
right?
Yeah,
we
yeah.
are human beings, and
Right.
there are bad teachers. There are teachers
Plenty.
that should not be teaching, but I can't control that.
Yeah.
I can only control what goes on in
Your
my
own
classroom
classroom.
and how I teach my kids and how I want my child to get his education. Because like I said, I'm a parent too.
Right.
I got a kid who's in high school. So I had to think about that. I had to think about what he's learning in school.
Right.
What is he getting out of school? What are they teaching my son?
So
Not just what I'm teaching other people's kids, but what is my son being taught?
I had Patricia just, reminded me of something that Andre had said to us, Andre Taggart, sergeant from the Metropolitan Police Department, about policing. And he basically said, listen, man, they're bad cops. And this is one of the first police officers I have ever had the opportunity and that actually admitted that, right? That, he said it, I do my job well and I do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
I can't account for everybody else, but I'm going to make sure that I lead the example because he is a sergeant. And it's the same thing
Yep.
that you're saying. So I'm thinking, I do a lot of critical thinking. That's why that's why I'm gray, And I'm trying to think, what is with this whole critical race theory? Like, what is the true boogeyman that everybody's so scared about, right? And I think to myself, okay, are they scared that the people that are doing the teaching are the people that's going to shape, the kid's mind, and the teachers nowadays are more on the liberal middle of the road rather than teaching conservative thoughts and stuff like that, because we were just talking about private school, right? A lot of private schools, they're funded by a lot of money, and I guarantee you there's probably a lot of conservatives in those schools.
Yeah.
Because of what it is. So is the real problem, and I'm going to open this up to the floor for you guys to understand, is the real problem, because there's a problem being masked, and and what is the real problem? Is the real problem that they're scared that we're teaching you're teaching the young kids more middle of the road libertarian, whatever you want.
Libertarian.
No, do not say that about libertarians.
No,
That's
it's
not-
definitely not middle of the road.
no, liberal agenda is
Okay,
what they're
whatever.
afraid
Yeah,
of.
exactly,
Conservatives are
exactly,
afraid of.
He knew what I meant.
Leave
Exactly.
Republican
Don't get me
light-
hot
Exactly.
with
Leave
libertarians.
Republican light alone.
So, all right, Chris,
Yes,
because
thank
you
I'm
can
not
start
that
this off. You
political.
can start this off, and then we'll kind of open that up to the root, because I'm trying to figure out what the real problem is.
Well, if you want my honest answer here,
That's what you're here for.
Give it to a big C.
the problem with CRT or whatever they want to do, whatever it is, I look at it from a much deeper perspective than most people do. I see it definitely as the privatization of education, because they're in it for the grift, they're in it for the money.
There you go.
When you privatize, that money goes to certain things. So how do you privatize when majority of people get their education through public education? People think that there's all these hundreds of thousands of private schools that you can just have an option. If you don't like it, just go to a lot of places there is no option. The only education you're ever going to get is going to be a public education. So you don't have an option of a great private school. Even here where we live in the bubble. There's so many good private schools, public schools. It is
Charter school.
It's false. All right?
Even if you're getting
This is not
homeschooled, you're
what-
probably
yes.
doing better because your parents are more educated.
Even not
right?
that. How that I don't even want to get to the homeschooling thing, because
Education comes from the
you
home.
know,
No, not that. That's
Not that kind.
education comes from the home,
Not
but
the-
homeschooling, you can't tell me that you are not trained to teach someone
Everything.
kindergarten
Right.
through 12th grade are
Exactly.
totally different things. That's why we have an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school, because kids are going through three different stages in their lives.
And you have different subjects
There's
too, right? You
different
can't be
subjects,
an
and
expert
you-
on every subject,
Absolutely.
right?
So you can't tell me from your homeschool kit that you're going to give your kid a better education than a licensed professional, someone who has taken classes, someone who has passed praxis exams, someone that whose life is dedicated to education. I don't teach the same way I taught when I first started teaching because I go to conferences, I talk to other teachers.
Plus, it helps your kids be social, right? It helps your kids be social.
There's
Well, they have
many
socialization
that-
activities, but it's not the same.
There's so
Homeschool?
many things
Yeah.
that, you know, public school, any type of school away from homeschooling. Again,
Do you think it's a fear thing?
No question.
yes, it's definitely a fear. And again, like I said, most of the fear we have in this country is you have to think about our country pre 9/11 and post 9/11. Pre 9/11, our country was very opening.
Yes.
Think about this of us people that were here or born pre 9/11. How many friends did you know? And we live in a pretty affluent area. We don't live in like some hood area. We live in Fairfax. We grew up in an affluent area.
Yep.
The double
How
digits
many
hood.
how many friends or family members did you know that had an alarm system with cameras and gates and cages all around their houses?